Today we are watching the video that some of you I think have already checked out from New York Times opinions. One second. It is about, what did they call it, sex recession? People aren't having sex.
I think the discomfort is a really important...
1 second.
I think the discomfort...
Oh my god. Now, what are your guesses for two things? What would be your guesses for why people aren't having sex, Gen Z specifically, and what would be your guesses for why, how they would explain it? I'm not having a tick, by the way. They are going to blame it all on video games and corn. What are they going to say about it? The economy, social media, I don't know, my guess is the same. No money, poor social skills, still live at home, never goes out. Is it, 1 second, is it about what you think is the reason and what you think they'll say? Yeah. The thumbnail I made. Do you like it? Is it popping? Thanks. Then I am very thankful for the positive comments. I now feel good. I really enjoy making this. Not this one. I didn't really like making this one. I cannot move my arms. Like, I can only do it from, if I click on an emote. Like, where are they? Oh. I can also do poses, and they are JoJo poses, except it doesn't work well. A little bit difficult sometimes. Oh my god, thank you. Now let's What are you doing? Oh my god. There are very few polygons in my model. Okay? Moving on. How should I succeed for my face not to be suffering from digital tics. This will do it better, right? Oh, it seems so. Okay, then we can go to our apparently I made 2 thumbnails. Okay, window, go down, go. That's that clutter. Welcome to a sexless America. I think I'll maybe. What's going on? No, you know what? No. Huh. Wait. No. Okay. It seems this is where we are. This is our layout. How you guys doing, by the way? As for your face glitching outside of having a professional home studio setup, I say get a ring light to illuminate your face better for the camera to capture your facial expressions clearly. Fish's bag. People aren't fucking enough. Yeah, that's true. To add buffer fish to the layout, we need fish to spam buffer fish, so that comment there's always a buffer fish. You see? That's actually on you. That's your fault there isn't a buffer fish right now. Okay. I'm doing good. Oh, 2 people doing good. That's great. Oh, yoga. My friend does yoga sometimes, and she says it's quite demanding, actually. I'm doing good. Last few weeks before going back to college. Oh, I didn't know you were still in college. Or maybe I did, and I just don't remember. Anyway, time to... I'll just make pop-up chats. Oh, we got Munition 2 with us. I didn't notice. Let's go.
We're in a sex recession.
Sorry, I need to lower the voice for myself.
Americans are having less sex than ever before, especially Gen Z. The number of young people who say they haven't had sex in the past year has roughly doubled since 2010. And that data has caused a lot of worry.
The record level decline last year is leading to fears there may not be enough children to sustain the next generation.
But when asked what was more important to them than regular sex, many Gen Zers replied,
Gen Z would rather have a good night's sleep than sex.
I've been celibate for 2 years. I've never felt this much peace.
It really opens up like a new level of thinking in your mind.
It's no dating, no romance, nothing, for a full year.
I was thinking today to sort of have a realization. I was like, oh, I don't know. This actually might be a lifetime thing.
but is there happiness outside of happily ever after? gender? I spoke with reporters and researchers Carter Sherman and Christine Emba, who have reported extensively on the sex and dating lives of young people and the anxieties and obstacles that they're facing.
Lucky numbers, yes. Someone actually commented it.
Thanks for having us.
I want you guys to tell me, like, point out every single thing that you don't like that's being said. If you need time to say it, tell me to just stop. I will pause the video. I think the funniest complaint I hear is that Gen Z doesn't drink enough. Yes, that's true. I hear that one more from older millennials.
Thank you for having us. Just to start, in one word or a small handful of words, how do you feel about people having less sex?
I feel intrigued. It raises the question, why and what does it mean? And I think that's been kind of the guiding light of my reporting for the last several years.
The word would have to be mixed. I think I actually feel happy for young people if they feel less pressure to do things that they
Absolutely
don't
hate
want to do.
when they don't
But
talk
I do
about
feel concerned
pufferfish.
about what it represents about relationships more broadly, interaction with each other.
Pufferfish also have men and
Americans are
women.
having less sex, and it's particularly visible among young people. There's one recent study that says 1 in 4 Gen Z adults haven't had partner sex, and the number of young people who haven't had sex in the past year has doubled from 2010 to 2024, from 12% to 24%. And so, Christine, I want to start with you. You've been reporting on sex and dating in the culture for a long time. What are you seeing about the causes behind this trend?
Yeah, I mean, the trend is notable, especially among millennials and Gen Z. Gen Z is doing a lot of things less frequently than their older peers used to, or at least later. So they started driving later, they're moving out of their parents' houses later, they're drinking later, or not at all. So sex is another thing that they are doing later than their peers.
Wait, I want to ask one thing. So in the beginning, she says, how do you feel about Gen Z having less sex? How do you feel about it? Because they were like saying, naming feelings. I personally thought like nothing. Why would it be a problem? I knew it. What did you know? What did you know? That I don't feel anything about Gen Z not having sex. I mean, I am participating in not having sex economy in shambles. Yeah, that will be pointed out. Spoiler alert. I'm not particularly concerned about whether other people are having sex or not. Personally, I don't care. Yeah, I think that's the most normal
Fears. But I
statement.
think that the causes behind it are both manifold, and when you think about it, kind of obvious. I think one is, frankly, the internet and smartphones, where there's kind of a substitution effect. You could get dressed up and go out on a date and try and find someone to sleep with.
Like we've created a war when people don't want to have sex. Kids, yes.
And not have to make all that effort and fear rejection. So I think the technological climate has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. Carter, what about you? You've interviewed a lot of Gen Zers about sex. What have you seen or observed? Anything different from what Christine was saying?
No, I definitely second Christine's point, in particular about phones. I mean, this is not a trend that we're seeing just in the United States. I think it's notable that we're also seeing it abroad in countries like Japan and South Korea, which would point to there being some kind of global shared cause, and the emergence of smartphones and the social media that's on them, I think, is a very obvious culprit. That said, I don't think that there really is just one thing that we can pin the sex recession, as it's called, on. When I talk to young people, many of them bring up stuff like the political climate, like it makes them feel more anxious to have sex right now. Actually, after the overturning of Roe v. Wade, there was one study that came out that found out that about 13% of millennials and Gen Z have become more anxious around sex because And so I think we really have to look at what is going on overall in the climate when it comes to sex, and not just say, okay, we can just change or fix this one thing and that will fix the entire dating crisis, as some people have termed it.
I think that's absolutely true. I think one thing we might do just to sort of set the groundwork for the conversation is I think there are a lot of possible reasons behind the sex recession, and I think it would be interesting to just go through some of them. So, Christine, you were talking about phones. Carter, you were talking about Roe v. Wade. I also assume or wonder if Me Too had an impact on young people and how they were thinking about sex. Is that something that's come up in your reporting?
That's something that definitely came up in my reporting and with young people that I talked to, millennials.
Millennials aren't having sex because they were raised to be good consumers and see that having children means they have less money for them to spend on Disney slop. Gen Z isn't having sex because aside from the normal reasons, most Gen Z men sadly aren't chads. Were most men in previous generations chads? Oh, hi. Haven't seen you today yet. Do you use OBS? Yes. It sounds like a lot of background static. Well, this is horrifically pessimistic. Yes, but I also want to point out that in the beginning, Rami said that he expects them to blame like phones and video games, which would be the problem with it is that it's a simplistic view, right? But here you are giving us a simplistic view that is also very negative about people, so you're kind of doing the same thing they're doing. No, but apparently for most Gen Z it's Chad, Stacy or nothing. I'll just say no for now. This would be like a separate topic of diving into this whole idea about Chad Stacy. If anything, gamers have been having more sex than ever. Yes. Gamer and anime lovers, anime fans.
And Gen Z. I think one of the things that Carter was pointing out very correctly is that the entire social environment shapes how people move about, how they interact with each other, and maybe eventually how they have sex. So, first of all, we have to know that Gen Z has come of age in a very anxious time, right? There was COVID and the pandemic, everything was stuck at home. Our political climate is frankly insane. And then Me Too happened in 2018, that kind of a formative age for many people in terms of thinking about sex and dating and how to relate to other people. I think for young women, Me Too served as a moment in which they could say, you know, the current sexual climate or current sexual landscape maybe actually doesn't feel that great for me, and I feel like I'm allowed to say that publicly. There's like less pressure on me to assent to things, which is, I think, a really good thing. I think for young men, however, they can be really frightened, actually. There's one guy I remember interviewing who said that, you know, after Me Too, asking out a colleague in the workplace or hitting on a girl in public was like handing them a loaded shotgun. It was really dangerous and could have consequences for him. And I was kind of like, that seems extreme. But I think a lot of actually conscientious young men noted that, you know, Me Too had happened, women had been made uncomfortable in a number of circumstances that they, you know, hadn't known about, and dialed back their own behavior, their own willingness to ask people out, to try and pursue sex on a date, to even try and pursue dating in some situations. And obviously, if you're not talking to potential sex partners, it is far less likely that you will have sex with them.
I actually think what I found in my
Here I want us to stop, to pause. I want you people to comment. And I want you to tell me, what do you think these women or this woman thinks about about men being concerned and affected by Me Too movement. And while you typing, I hope you are. I'll read what you said before. Yeah, I'm happy that Asmongold finally found his dream Asian girlfriend, but I don't see that as the case for most gamers. I don't think Asmongold at any point has ever represented most gamers. Yes, gaming is more accepted as mainstream than some sort of niche. Yes. Wouldn't it be more accurate to say for most Gen Z, it's my perfect partner or nothing? People across the board are far more risk-averse with the advent of social media than we have been since, well, ever. A common based take from E-Blade Monk. Oh yes, me too. Women feel like they evolved as species after feminism and magically want men to have the same thing while putting it down. Please elaborate on what you mean by that. I will not ask people out unless I'm sure there is attraction. It's understandable. I mean, this is what E-Blade Monk said. Risk aversion. So, what do you think her opinion about these men she talked about is? I think if everyone comes across the board, sorry, what is up with me? Why am I reading words that are not there? If everyone across the board has gotten more neurotic following the rise of social media, then wouldn't Me Too represent both a liberatory force for women and a force representing the threat of consequences for men who misstep? Unfortunately, dating is a lot of missteps before anything happened. This is a nuanced take. They actually will talk more about Me Too. Yeah, unlike previous generations, Gen Z millennials don't have to settle for the first person who comes their way. I think you're exaggerating too much to the point it kind of becomes disconnected from the reality. My mother is she was born in 60s and it's Russia, so you have to also dial back a little. But she chose a person. She told my father at some point that I want to marry. If you don't want to marry yet, if you want to have more freedom and more fun, let's separate. And they did, and then my father changed his opinion. As an incel male, we don't have much of a choice in whom we end up with, if at all. I will not divert the conversation into this topic, but I have things to say.
It's different for the genders, as Christina's talked about, but what I found really interesting is when I talk to young men, and I should say for my book, The Second Coming, I interviewed more than 100 young people under 30. I've also covered gender and sexuality for 10 years now. I found that young men actually weren't all that
So, higher barrier of entry to financial independence and asset building, less cultural cohesion between men and women amid culture wars, less social risk taken due to digital age, higher standards of looks and other competences due to more exposure of competition online, all relevant factors in my opinion. It's not reduced to purely black pill lookism, but the socio-economic conditions which may encourage lookist behavior to exist, and importantly, this may not be natural human behavior. Yes, really, based on fact people take from Soul as usual. I think this was a great point, a number of great points. It may not be a universal thing, but in a lot of places, people would marry a person they would end up hating. Yes, we talked about it on another server, I think. Or maybe, no, we talked about it under the post. And I think it is the hurry to marry that affects it. Like, my parents are divorced, and the last years of their living together were very difficult. My father was not physically abusive, like, at least almost wasn't. I think it was never to my mother. But for whatever reason, there was this bitterness, like when the conflicts happen not because there's a reason for conflict, but because these people want to fight each other. Well, my father wanted to fight a lot. But anyway, it is actually not having options, not, so to say, window shopping that led to this. My father and mother have never slept together until they married, never lived together. So I think it's important. But the first years of marriage, they were okay. It's me. My birth maybe affected it a lot. But yeah. So when people don't get to live together, they don't get to experience different kinds of relationships, they struggle to find out what they actually like. That's like one of the reasons why marrying young is not a good choice, and why young women dating older men, and the other way, young men dating older women, young women dating older women, young men dating older men, the age gap thing is because one partner has had experiences that help them know what they like and what they want, and the other has not had these experiences and they're just learning. I can imagine that your parents had to wait a long time before they go their own apartment. Before they own their own apartment, I assume. They got an apartment, I think, right after that. My father worked in a factory, so I think that helped. And maybe I should ask my parents or my grandma. Anyway, my question was, what do you think the attitude of the previous women talking about men who were unsure of acting due to Me Too was. I explain why I'm asking this. It is because in the comments you will see many people, and it's specifically men, saying that these women like mock the anxieties, and I think it's very much reading into it too deep. I don't see how it looks like mocking in any way. There is a smile, but a smile indicates many things. I have personally smiled when I was about to be admitted into a psych ward, talking about my strong suicidal ideations at the time. A smile of discomfort is very common. I can imagine that your parents had probably dismissive, I would think, which is fair enough. I guess people are to care more about what affects themselves than things that I think other people. And with misanthropy in the known these days, I think it's easy to imagine that they are mocking men's anxieties. To imagine, yes, because if you have listened, you should have noticed that the woman who was talking about it now specifically pointed out that it's conscientious men who worry about it. The smile, I would say, is happening because of meeting something that is unusual, that seems absurd. Because, like, for me, not being in this position, I find it absurd because I'm not experiencing these feelings. Without it, and when it goes against the picture I have in my head, this very well might seem absurd. It doesn't mean that it's mocked or not taken seriously. Like, wow, this is what is happening. Imagine that. Okay, so we keep going about Me Too.
Moved by Me Too, and I think this is partially an age thing, which to Christine's point, she's talking.
1 second. My suspicion is that the smile is more PR face. These are all reasonable media savvy actors, so it makes sense they control the frame to some extent. Fair. I didn't think about it, but it could be true. So I don't think they're mocking per se, but sex in a relationship can be a sensitive subject for a lot of men. So if something can be interpreted as mockery, their all feelings come out. I mean, that's fair, but we are also in control of our feelings, on how we act when we have these feelings. And I point it out because I want to look at the comments if we have time. If we don't, then it will be my tomorrow, Americans today. Oh, I know that despite never having been an abuser or wanting to in their eyes, because I'm ugly and autistic, I am that guy in their minds. What's good about having Rami with us is that he represents exactly the mindset that I want to be want to push back against people who should be in control of their feelings, but a lot aren't. Yes, unfortunately. And again, when we talk about men aren't taught emotional intelligence, so they often tend to lack it. And controlling your feelings, conflict resolution are all part of it. Maybe their experiences with the male have been more of a critique of their chauvinism or arrogant approach. Whose experiences as these men will approach women more as low inhibition. I always forget what inhibition means. Please tell me. Oh, hey Kapi, please tell me like I'm 10. So women's experiences with men will be more with these men. So, okay, more with aggressive pursuers. So the idea of risk-averse, socially submissive men creates a dissonance. How can a man not have the upper hand? This is more instinct than a belief. It actually kind of makes sense. Don't always think about it. Inhibition is restraint, the factors stopping someone from acting. Okay, I hope I will remember it. This is a good explanation. I just I have failed to remember it after looking up for, I think, about 3 times. I almost gave up. I couldn't message in the chat for all this time over browser. I'm sorry. That sucks.
About people being in the workplace, but many.
Speaking about emotions once again, I'm pretty sure you probably don't see it, but I am smiling right now. I think this is, by the way, also important to note that women are taught to smile. My basic expression if I relax becomes a smile, even though it is not a relaxed face actually. And what can you hear? Oh, me smiling. Yeah. And it's not that I don't take these things seriously. If you listen to my video on experiences of being in a Russian psych ward, I am smiling and sometimes I'm even laughing. Part of it is, of course, my inappropriate, what's it called, affection? No. Or maybe yes. Affect, my inappropriate affect, flat affect. But yeah, anyway, I'm taking it too long.
I was interviewing, they did not remember Me Too, which was sort of a dagger to the heart the first time I heard it, because it was so pivotal to me. And there was one young man I remember who, 18 years old, grew up in New York City, had just graduated high school right after we spoke. And he was sort of talking about the ways that young men in his cohort talk about women, and he was using terms like bop and ran through, and things that really are not very friendly to women. Yeah, ran through was really the term that stuck
I don't
with
know
me.
the term bop. Is it not appropriate for New York Times podcast?
It's not family friendly. I don't know. Yeah. No, look it up on Urban Dictionary if you feel so inclined after this. But what was striking to me is he said this thing. He's like, you're talking about Me Too, and Me Too is about not sexually assaulting women, but it's not necessarily. I didn't understand it as treating women as people. That's not how I understood it. And he kind of drew a line between affording women and girls full humanity and just not sexually assaulting them. And I found that very fascinating because it speaks to me that Me Too didn't really do as much as we maybe would have liked it to do, that it didn't actually really change some of these mores as permanently as we might have liked, because like people just don't remember. And the thing I will say about young women, I totally agree with Christine that I found that they have become more anxious. And I think part of that is because for the women who remember Me Too helped them recognize, certainly earlier than I did, that maybe something that happened to them that was wrong was actually a violation. That they should recognize this as sexual assault or sexual harassment, and they deserve to seek redress for that. They deserve to be made whole. But what these women have also found is that we didn't actually really see that many institutional changes after Me Too. Like, we have seen more HR trainings around sexual violence. We have seen some legislation around NDAs. But for institutions like colleges, we haven't actually seen an overhaul of the way that we address sexual violence. The same goes for K-12 institutions. And so these young women walk around with a greater knowledge of how pervasive sexual violence is, and an understanding that if something happens to them, their institutions are not necessarily set up to help them in that instance. And that is just a culture of fear. It's a miasma of anxiety, and that makes you not want to engage in any of this to begin with.
I think that's a great point, actually, and I think you're right to point out this distinction between kind of millennials and older Gen Z who might have had their sort of sexual memory working when Me Too happened.
Okay, what do you think about this? Any cool thought out takes, or maybe knee-jerk reactions? I wish there was at least one man on this panel. I'm not sure. I think someone had to leave. It was pointed out. Run through is crazy work. It's kind of impressive how viciously they rip through the social fabric. It is not Tate. It has been there. Like, Rami, I'm sure you know, you've seen run through or equivalents. The way so many men speak about single mothers is absolutely horrifying. They hate them viciously, despise them. Was that the part that was supposed to be mocking? I wonder. They were talking about men's anxiety, so I don't think this doesn't count as men's anxieties. I think now it's women being right about being risk averse. I think we pointed out at some point talking with Stark and Solo many moons ago. I'd say it's better now than it was in the past, though I feel like we're definitely on downswing now. I think the downswing came to it being about as bad as in the past, or even more, if we're talking about amplitudes. It's just that it gets more pushback now. So if in the past people were unaware on a large scale that you can be against this, you can be refuse it, scold it, not accept it, now more people know that, hey, I can say that this sucks. I can say that this is bad behavior. It's kind of a basic take, but I did notice a desperation among a lot of young guys to game women in college parties and frats, and the girls would kind of subtly be receptive to it. What do you mean, game women? It's like a desperation to get the experience and be validated, like a rush. not to actually gradually acquaint oneself with the girl. Looks maxers try to replace gender alienation with pure low inhibition instead of a more holistic balance based on independence of personality. Okay, now try to put it in simple terms. Maybe I just grew up somewhat insulated from the hatred of single mothers. My mom would have rolled up on a brick with her sister mother an entire army if they looked at her sideways. That's probably good if you had that mother, unless she was abusive. I'm fairly of the camp of not dating single mother and playing another man's saved game. I think it's well to be hostile towards single mothers. I say that as a son of a single mother. You are, with this statement, adding up to this hatred. What do you mean, another man's saved game? What position a single mother is in this metaphor that you're using? Why is a woman who has been with a man already kind of claimed by that man, but this doesn't happen the other way around? I don't want to play father figure to another man's children. I don't understand it in a sense that I don't understand why people want their biological offspring. Like, why not adopt a child instead? This is beyond me. But not all fathers are good. What's so bad about being a father figure to a child? Is it because you consider it as belonging to another man? Do you consider the results of relationship with a man to be leftovers, so to say? I'm a son of a single mother as well, but it was more of a voluntary separation that lost the effort to reunite over time. Yeah, I remember you talk about. That's fine that you don't want that. What is the link there? I don't want children at all, to be fair. I mean, this is not about wanting or not wanting children. This is about specifically how people treat single mothers. It's not about dating, just like what you think about them. Dating a single mother means that you are not a priority for her. You will always come dead last in her list of priority, next to her children and dealing with the father of her children. That's just wrong. You will not come after the father that has left the relationship. How often do you think it's left on good terms, or even if it's left on good terms and on friendship, this father is still not a constant in their life at all? Like, okay, you are a child of a single mother. Was your dad a lot in your family? Mine is on blood communicating ownership. Yeah, it feels like that's the case. Yo, 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 who is we body? Speak for yourself. Yeah, right. Where is we? Where was we? Hi, Smurfs, by the way. No, that's what I mean. Like, I understand, but don't agree the whole I don't want to raise another person's kids, but I don't see how that devalues the mother. Not wanting to raise another person's kid is a little bit different, because you might, I don't know how people who want their blood genetic child to think. Like, I don't know what's in their head. My father decided to prioritize his real family over me and my sister, whom he had with our mother. We were his side family. See, so it's not the case. The father that is not there, like, if we even consider that he left and not just died, he probably won't be in the life of this child. Fathers notoriously want little to do with their children when they leave a partner. I don't see the issue not wanting to date a single mother. That's a preference, but devaluing and talking badly about them is wrong. Yes, like, it's considering a woman as stained by a man, run through, considering a child like a liability. By the way, talking about women prioritizing children, this has been said a lot, but if you ever think about the cases of children being assaulted, abused by their step-parents, you will see that a lot of the times biological mother will choose being with this stepfather over the safety of her child. Unfortunately, this is very common. I don't get the whole blood-bound thing. It's such a holdover from when peasants still worked land. Yeah, sounds interesting. I'm just grateful that we aren't lions. Lions will kill the cubs that their mate shed with other lions to ensure that his bloodline prevails. Oh, that's why. Little biology fact. Okay, so anyway, even like speaking about dating a woman with a child, you don't have to be the father figure. You can just exist there. I mean, a lot of people just want to take on the responsibility of raising, don't want to take on the responsibility of raising a kid to begin with, especially if you've never had a relationship at all beforehand. I found that to be understandable. But that, yes, I do feel like when someone once said that men want children the same way children want pets, like puppies. It is not expecting yourself to be a part of, being responsible. Okay, let's keep moving.
And
An hour has passed. We are 10 minutes in. Someone was answer actually.
younger generation who did not. So one of the things that I've also noticed as a sort of age and gender split is in a post-Me Too environment where people, where young women, I think, are more okay with talking about negative experiences. They share those, especially on TikTok
Typical
and
Jester
Instagram.
stream, yeah.
A lot of women are more open to making reels about, I had this bad experience with a man, or I went on this date and it was awful and here's why. And there is actually just a lot more content about how
Just
men
as the
can be
reaction
dangerous or
factory,
predatory
real
or
transformation
sort
of
in
content.
social media kind of dating advice.
I want to say that I initially didn't want to, make a stream out of this video because I thought I have nothing to say, and I think this video delivers its point very well. Apparently, I underestimated my ability to say things.
Parlance, narcissists or liars or something, and so it makes men feel both scarier and sort of less, I think, responsive to female concerns. And there's a whole dialogue that has grown that is kind of negative around dating men. In fact, it's a term that I think the New York Times has published a number of pieces on, heteropessimism, right? This idea that for a woman trying to date a man is kind of a hopeless enterprise. And, you might in fact wish that you were a lesbian or not interested in men at all, but alas, you are. And then on the male side of the equation...
Before we step, I think this might be one of the reasons some commenters decided that they're mocking, like women not wanted to date men. Are you listening to this on your TV? No, why? Women are not into men. This doesn't work this way. Being afraid, being anxious is not the same time as not the same thing as being not attracted. Talking about bad experiences does not mean you are not attracted to people, the group of people you've had these experiences with. The very reason to talk about it is because you are interested, you have sought out these experiences, and you will probably want to seek them again. You have this desire, so you either need to have a warning or to have a prevention, because if you didn't want it, why would you need to be warned about it? And talking about being a lesbian, if they weren't into men, they wouldn't be complaining about being into men. Because the people who complain about being into men are surprisingly into men. What if I'm attracted to you? You're based for that. You are correct.
If women are seeing feeds that are full of kind of negative content about the opposite sex and sort of descriptions of, unfortunate and scary occurrences that then shape their idea of dating, men are getting dating advice that is also really negative about...
and just so, hang up on this idea of them mocking. Like, we see that they have serious faces, serious expression, but they have the smile, and I think that's the reason they interpret it as mocking. Only, like, they see a facial expression and they connect it only to one thing, and this one thing will be their narrative. I have personal beef with I wish I was a lesbian because it treats queerness as a personality trait. Queer. Yes. Yes, I hate when straight women say that. Oh my god. No, you don't. You just want to complain. You wouldn't want to be a lesbian. Yeah, I haven't really noticed any mocking yet, but we are only 10 minutes in. Sorry, this was just the biggest one.
Occurrences that then shape their idea of dating.
Like, basic face is smile.
That is also really negative about women, you know, like all women are on OnlyFans, women can't be trusted, women only want to date men who are, you know, tall,
Same level as
rich,
when IT
and
tells
handsome.
us,
And if you're
and
not
we
one
should
of
try
them,
to
blue
date
eyes
men.
and works in finance.
yes, actually,
I've also
Yeah.
heard this is like 666. He needs to be 6 feet tall, make 6 figures, and have a six pack. Which like I think is something that men believe women want.
yeah, and when men are, you know, told this by sort of their dating advisors, like the Fresh and Fit podcast or Andrew Tate types, or even, you know, Joe Rogan occasionally trades in this sort of discourse, they begin to feel really negatively towards women. And so, yeah, they aren't really interested in being with each other in the
Bye.
same way.
Some no
I have
complaints
so
from
many
me.
theories for why this is happening, but I want to keep moving us through them. One that a friend of mine who's 21 brought up when we were talking about this is she was saying Gen Z is facing a lot of mental health issues, in part because of the anxieties of the world, and they are very medicated for their mental health. I think they're one of the most medicated generations, which for anyone who's been on antidepressants can have an impact on your libido. And she was positing that this might be one of the causes why Gen Z is having less sex. Has that come up in either of your reporting?
So not necessarily the medication effect specifically, but it is worth noting that something like 1 in 4 members of Gen Z has been in therapy at some point in their adolescence, which is just way more than any other generation. I think there is something to be said about mental health generally and how Gen Z views protecting their mental health and protecting their space and peace.
I think that's not what they will say, but it's true. Antidepressants affect libido. Oral contraceptives affect libido. Depression affects libido. CSRI is being a factor is an interesting point. Yes, I didn't think about it because I didn't have information about Gen Z being very medicated. Well, something I agree with. Over-medication destroyed an entire generation's libido. This is not what they said. It's not over-medication. In fact, I think we don't have enough medication, as we see from people in my server. Big Pharma not even once. What?
In different ways than their older peers might have. One of the things actually tying back to the reasons why men are seemingly having less sex than women is that, you know, for many young men at this point, this idea that you have to be the perfect man, you have to be the right model of masculinity, you have to be ready before you can be in a relationship, seems to be driving a number of men into, you know, just taking a step back and moving into self-optimization, going...
I refuse to be medicated, and you are incredibly wrong for that. The same I want to say about frail. Bro gets medication that's just intended to kill his brain instead of medication that is aimed at making him better. My meds are based for the most part. The right meds change your life. They stopped giving people meth, that's when everything started going downhill. Correct. We should all be on meth. We need to make sex pills to give alongside SSRI. Never thought about it. Copy. Same. I feel like you don't really have much choice due to your location. Maybe I'm wrong there.
into monk mode and thinking that they have to figure out every aspect of their lives before they can start dating, before it's okay to approach anyone else. And so that moves having sex later. And then for young women, there's this idea that, you know, your mental health is fragile.
I should have waited to stopping. This point, I think, is important because I have seen it being expressed repeatedly by men, like they are not in a place good enough to date yet. Like, I don't have a car, I don't have a good job, I don't have finances, whatnot. Be messy. This is a form of avoidance. You think, well, until I get to this point, I will avoid doing this thing that scares me. And if you, like in this case, you are saving yourself either by always moving the goalpost of what you need to get, or you initially get a goal that is inaccessible, like 666. I might be open to alternate psychedelic LSD if I absolutely have to go to therapy. Why? Why not chemicals created specifically to fix your brain chemistry? I don't understand. I've been literally pocket sniffing my PC to find the error to see if it's an issue with WebSockets. Engineering moment, yeah. Wanting a perfect life before dating is self-sabotage, absolutely. And like it goes to everything. Waiting for a perfect moment is avoidance. The mess, that was a good one in that video, got me thinking about that too. My life isn't together, but I don't feel like I need to wait until things are perfect anymore. My boyfriend of many years, like the one, well, ex-boyfriend, so he didn't have a job. He dropped out of university first semester. He was kind of a shut-in gamer, and yet he was what I wanted because I liked him. Because they will destroy your libido and turn you into a zombie with no feelings. That is not true. Demonization of meds. I have my libido. I actually have to choose not to engage in sexual activities for my productivity. Mine does neither. They're based, yeah, I think that's mostly SSRI. I do take antidepressants. SSRI, I believe, yes, it's venlafaxine. But wouldn't you say there is some validity to young women not liking men who don't have their life together? There is, sure. The bare minimum is not always clear, especially for those who can't depend on charisma or looks to give them the confidence that it could actually work. What's up with being a venlafaxine girl? God, miss her little rant. What was my rant about? Tell him. So, yes, there are people with inadequate expectations. They will either be disappointed and have to get their shit together, or they will figure out in process that they actually like the person even though their life isn't perfect. So consider this. Yes, I will not become a slave to zombie pills and be a good little John. There is no such thing. If you get zombie pills, so to say, you just tell your psychiatrist, hey, that sucks. They don't work for me. And they say, okay, let's have something else. Or let's add something that will, make you more active, that will counter the effect. This is what medication is for. This is what psychiatrist is for, to find proper meds. By the way, my meds, venlafaxine, is specifically for making you more active. So if I were to take too much, I would be like extremely energetic and also get serotonin syndrome. I also refuse to become a lab rat and just take meds until something works. Rami, this is stupid. I will need to find a moment to talk about this honestly dumb demonization of meds. Your age is showing. Yesterday I watched a girl who took Lexapro for a few years for anxiety. Why did I think it was laxative? I guess the first letters. And when she started having issues, she wanted to get off and ended up with huge amount of health problems and having to taper by 1 milligram per year. Whoa. Thanks for joining. Yes, things may go wrong. They may go wrong with everything. But some things are more likely and some things are less likely. Some of us like being zombified. Manishan said, brokerage baiting, you're supposed to taper off all medication. Yes, but he said 1 milligram. This is a really low point. Like I take for my antidepressants, I take 150 milligrams. I take 100 milligrams of tranquilizers and also 300 milligrams of mood stabilizers. You can look at the lore in my server. I posted my thing with meds, with tabs. Most of the times the meds won't make you a zombie. And also people start with small doses unless you are under surveillance in a hospital, staying there. You will not get huge doses. You will start with small doses, and they don't want to get a lot of they don't want you to take a lot of medicine. For psychiatrists that I worked with, they wanted always to have smaller doses, and they were always reluctant to up the dosage. Yeah, the withdrawal and dependence issues worry me. To be fair, I don't have chronic mental crisis. I disagree. I think you do. But at the same time, my life feels stagnating. It's hard to know if it's worth taking for me. It is. I have more of a subtle depression that can be muted with other activity. doesn't seem so far. Like, I think you've shown us that it really doesn't get muted enough. I don't consider meds if it vastly changes my perspective on life in a good way, but if it's more of a mutant thing, I have other cops already. No, it's not. Wait a second. Manishan says, another important facet that fails to get mentioned is medication has a 2 to 3 week window to see how body acclimates to it. Going off stories or going off brief personal experiences is not enough. See? You know, what I want to say is about withdrawal and dependence. For the first time in my life, I thought about, I think it was about 3 years ago, I thought, damn, will I have to take meds my whole life? God, this is terrible. And then I stepped back and I thought that, to me, honestly, complaining about having to do this my whole life feels like an upgrade, because before that I was, I will take as many meds as I need for as long as I need, even if it's my whole life, just to feel better, because this was terrible. So I think due to my circumstances, due to how long my depression has been going on, due to how early it started, it has affected me so much that it cannot be short term. One of my, ex-friends, she needed to take meds for not such a long period, and she was extremely happy. She suffered from bulimia. I've had both experiences. First couple of times I tried meds and I felt zombified and very muted. Currently, though, I've never felt better in my life. Yes, I will always advocate for meds due to the sole fact that I have experienced not wanting to die for the first time in my conscious life, and I have experienced a few years, like a year and a half later, wanting to live for the first time. I have never felt these feelings. This felt ecstatic, euphoric. Wow, you want to live, you want to experience things. This is incredible. And like now, even if my life is shit, and it's objectively shit, I mostly, unless it's a crisis, I don't want to die. I want to live. And that's another thing. I've heard many people who've been pushed to nearly unaliving themselves because before their heads were active and lively, but once they went on meds, their internal dialogue disappeared and they felt so bored. This is bullshit, honestly. I've never even heard about it. So bored of not having mental background noises that they wanted to delete themselves. Boredom. I think this one is, together with zombifying, demonization of meds. What might be an actual problem, and psychiatrists will inform about that, and this is one of the reasons why they make slow changes in a dosage when they start, is that if you are very depressed and inactive, if you have no will, like I had, if you take meds, you might get this spur of willpower that you haven't had, that kept you from committing suicide. If you get this boost, you might finally have the power for it. Actually, I don't think anything will make me not want to self-delete. This is scientifically wrong, okay? They make people not want to die. They made me not want to die. Here, Fallout said he stopped wanting to die. I suffer with depression, but even small dose of SSRI make me feel unmotivated, brain dead, and really ADHD. What meds have you tried? That's where finding the right concoction of meds comes into play. Yeah, Manisha says. Which is why it's stressed so much about giving medication time and voicing critiques to your psych. Yes, exactly. It has to be handled correctly. People treat it like it has to be one-term solution. It won't. Fluoxetine, citalopram, I think those both are, muting you. Escitalopram, this one I haven't heard. Maybe even vertioxetine does this. Yeah, so a question. Do you usually feel unmotivated? The ability to take meds that can just fix issues is a privilege that most all humans throughout history didn't have access to. Yeah, I remember a Tumblr post. Some drugs go by different names in other countries. Yeah, we know. He named, I assume it's a he. Sorry if I'm wrong. They named the active ingredient, like what specifically works. Not, trademark. I was actually thinking just earlier today how screwed I would have been if I was born in any other time. Yeah, so the Tumblr post I thought of was the girl who didn't want to take meds for her headache, and then she imagined how the scientists, they came up with these meds to make people feel better. 11 minutes in, by the way. Yeah. We'll continue tomorrow. My tomorrow, your today. So people put so much effort into coming up with help, and you say, no, I don't want it. It's like, someone makes a bunch of sweaters for people not to get cold, and you are cold, but you are afraid that the size will be wrong. Like, okay, there are many sweaters, choose a different size. People will literally kill their brain cell by cell, taking alcohol, and then they're like, oh, but I don't want to try to feel better. suppose I do have motivation issues. It's hard for me to get started on things I want to do. Lots of procrastination. Yeah, I understand. It's like executive dysfunction. I have the same thing. It's, for me now, it's my environment. It's like people want to suffer in some cases. Yes, the navel of knowledge on his channel had a video about the narrative we create about ourselves. Like, if I believe I am, a red color, and I live my life as a red color, and then someone comes to me and says, no, you are actually an orange color, you might think that, I lived my whole life wrong. Do I want to find out that I lived my whole life wrong? I don't. Like, you create a narrative where you are a person who suffers, and then you keep replaying your life according to this narrative, because this is your identity. I will try to stop crashing out now so that we can see another minute of the video before we launch into another 20 minutes of debate. Yeah, who said that the most transformative views?
Fragile. Other people can be anxiety causing. Relationships are, and I think we can actually all understand this, can be really anxiety causing, can produce a lot of pressure. And to stay on balance, to keep oneself safe, the better thing to do is invest in yourself, invest in your mental health, invest in kind of the relationships that you can control, your friendships, and, maybe not experiment with sex and dating at this time because it seems too stressful and too fraught.
Yeah, I think I was looking at a survey that asked Gen Zers, what is more important to you than regular sex? And they answered success at work, friendships, a good night's sleep was very high up there. And fair. And fair. But to go back to something that you were just saying, Christine, you were talking about sort of the amount of like work and readiness that men think that they need to do in order to be ready for a relationship. And I've noticed in my conversations with young people that much, much, much more so than when I was young. I guess I no longer am than when I was young.
You're still young.
All of us are young. Much more so than when I was in my early 20s. There's a big focus on the idea of a long-term relationship as this very venerated goal, as like this huge commitment. Part of it is that you see on social media these relationships
we need to have a podcast soon.
huge gestures,
it is a podcast
and emotional,
with feelings
in.
in.
Algorithm is designed to promote performativity or the sale of a product, but there's this idea that a long-term relationship is this really serious thing, and that's much more desired and much more the focus than sort of casual sex. And I wonder, how have you seen the distinction about how young people feel between long-term romantic relationships and casual sex, and have there been shifts there?
I found it very interesting how much young people are kind of dismissive of hookup culture, as they put it. Like, when I was growing up as a millennial, I think we were very overwhelmed by the narrative of hookup culture. There was this real sense in the media that young millennials were having too much sex, that they were having sex so casual it verged on impersonal, and that would imperil our ability later on down the line to get married, to have kids. And like, guess what? We are getting married, we are having kids, we're just doing it at a later point. And so I think that narrative, though, has still trickled down to young people. They saw that millennials got roasted for hookup culture, and now they don't really want to engage in that as much. Like, they do want to be in these long-term relationships. And I mean, I understand that desire. I really do. Particularly for a group that feels very alone, having a person who feels like theirs, who feels like they are going to be a foundation for them and for their life. Like, I don't think that's a bad desire whatsoever.
I think to go a little bit deeper into how that narrative has shifted, there was a spate of stories like Cat Person, the New Yorker short story that was just about a normal girl who goes on a date and hooks up with a guy and kind of, is grossed out by it. And there is a sort of openness to this idea that sort of millennial sex positivity, which I would describe not as sex positivity in the classic feminist sense, that sex is a good thing, but sex positivity in a kind of deterministic sense, meaning you need to go out and have a lot of sex, otherwise you're not a good feminist or a modern young person, etc., was kind of blown up a little bit. Gen Z, I think, saw millennials sort of dealing with the fallout of that culture and decided that, like, they didn't want to be part of it. And especially with, I think, some of the changes that had happened in sexual culture between millennials and Gen Z. So much of the sex that people seem to be having, that they're reporting having as kind of abusive or unpleasant, was extremely porn informed, for one thing. And so they have backed off from hooking up on the same level. But then when it comes to longer term relationships, there's a term, the idea of the cornerstone versus capstone model of long-term relationships. And so traditionally, long-term relationships, getting married.
Okay, before we go into this part, I read the comments because this is a very important part. A good night for me is like 7 hours. I can no longer sleep more than 7 hours. You become 60, 70, and then you sleep like 4 hours. The older you get, the less you sleep for some reason. And again, I was diagnosed with mild sleep apnea, and according to the test, I ended up only having 5 hours of actual deep sleep.
Having a long-term partner was seen as sort of the cornerstone of your life. Like, you find someone and then you continue to build your life on top of that. Maybe you're together and you go through grad school, you go through your careers, you're joining your lives together. And maybe at the cornerstone, you're not making that much money, you're not that secure, but it's okay. Now, I think in this more performative moment where, your big days, your dates are supposed to be celebrated as perfect on social media, a lot of young people feel like their long-term relationship should be the capstone of your life. That's something that you only do when you've got all of the other bricks in a row. When you're finished with school, when you have your career set up, when you're making enough money, that's when you can go for the long-term relationship.
I mean, I do think, just to complicate that narrative a little bit, because something that I do think that comes up a lot that sometimes frustrates me when we talk about Gen Z and the sex recession is, like, millennials were also having less sex. So, like, while we were having all of this discussion around, oh, they're hooking up too much, like, the reality is that they were having less sex than previous generations. And so when we think about the causes of the sex recession, I think we have to remember, like, this started before Me Too. This started before the pandemic. And this is really, like, Gen Z is the inheritors of a trend that began among millennials. So whatever we're seeing.
Comments? Look, we are almost 20 minutes. We will reach a 20-minute mark on this stream, I promise. I think this pointing out cornerstone relationship versus capstone relationship is very important. To me, it seems like a lot of, especially when we talk about peers, they talk about capstone relationships. And this is why they want to be the best in everything, and if you are not the best in something, you are not good enough. It may make sense to go for a career first and build up your bread if you want to start a family. No, again, cornerstone relationship. You build up your bread, you secure your finances as a couple, because this is easier. If you live together, one person loses their job, it's easier. because you have some kind of financial safety of relying on another person, on the other person. But yeah, putting off dating until after you get rich of your career sounds like a boring life. Yes, also don't forget that we are, like, I think globally have this crisis of not having enough jobs. So this is also not as commonly possible as we would want. I agree, there may be too much performativity of what a long-term relationship should look like online, and also self-consciousness about short-term hookups. A woman telling herself, I deserve better, why should I hook up with this guy? My friends would judge me. This is a black-pilled narrative, I can say, right ahead. So a lot of the less vocal of put together guys get overshadowed from these dynamics. As a result, you are getting third, fourth hand experiences telling, I mean third and fourth head. I forgot how to speak any languages. Wait a second. What you are telling is a third hand experience, or even a fourth hand experience. You do not know the inner buildings of it. You have been told about it by people who weren't even a part of these interactions. My friends judged me for the partner I chose, long term or short term, and I judged my friends for it, and it's normal. I actually was, when I met my best friend's boyfriend for the first time, I told her then that I think he is not good enough for her because I think he's too stupid for her. On their wedding, I said a speech when I remember that, and I said that I was wrong actually, because he supported her through all her low moments, and so I'm happy for her to be with him, with the person who supports her. So, like, yes, your friends might judge you. People will always judge you, and it's normal for friends to tell you, hey, I don't think this is the right thing to do. But you are the person who ultimately makes the choice. You don't just you have the agency to listen or not to listen to advices and recommendations. A risk of women telling herself, I deserve better, just this thing, why should I hook up with this guy, is I don't understand the depth of it. Why is it important? If you could explain to me, I'd appreciate it. This is what I realized a few years ago, but this is a cultural mentality here. Okay. Relationship built through adversity will be stronger. Yes. I asked Fish if I could tell about it, but it just, felt so strong to me. At some point, I think it was somewhat in the beginning of me and Fish when we started talking, so I was passive aggressive, and I kind of didn't want to notice it for myself. But Fish told me, like, hey, I don't really like what is happening, you make me uncomfortable, right? I'm not sure if he said it in these terms, this is my retelling. And like, he also remind me of a person who was behaved the same way, and this was terrible. This person is no longer my friend. And because I value Fish, his opinions, I thought to myself, and I had to recognize that yes, I was actually behaving like shit. And after that, I apologized. I'm pretty sure I have not behaved like this, or at least I've tried my best not to behave this way, because I, again, don't want this negativity, to create this negativity between us. And after this happened, I actually started feeling way better about our communication, because I realized that I can, I will inevitably fuck up, and this will be a person who understands it and who can point out that something is wrong, and we can discuss it, and I can apologize and just do better next time. And I hope for him it was the understanding that if I do a shitty thing, he can tell me about it, and I am capable of recognizing it, apologizing it, and doing better. I really hope this is the case for him.
With Gen Z, how they see relationships, how they see hooking up, like we have to be looking at both generations and thinking about things that have happened with both generations.
That's true, but I do think that there's a shift that's not so much about the having of sex, but the thinking about it in the culture. And for them, I realized, like, when sex is constantly being sold to you as a product, when it's like constantly over available on your phone, it becomes uncool so quickly. Like, we grew up in this very hypersexualized, Girls Gone Wild, blowjobadizing Cosmo magazine culture, that like Gen Z is just a little grossed out by, because it's so tied into a sort of like thing that's being sold to them all the time.
But is it uncool to not be able to have sex? Because I think it's perceived as cool to choose not to have sex. But, it's not always clear that someone is making the active choice to be celibate versus just kind of being unable to get laid. It's not cool to be powerless, right? It's cool to be in control. And I think, like, this is why people find the concept of virginity or the concept of being a virgin to be inherently embarrassing. Because, like, that is a state you can't change by yourself.
I think what you're saying about people not wanting to admit to powerlessness, being powerless as being cringe and uncool, is extremely true. So by going out and saying, well, actually I'm choosing to be celibate, or actually I am embracing loneliness and becoming a loneliness influencer, or
Finally touched upon the part I was waiting for.
Taking on the label for yourself feels like a reclamation of something that you might have otherwise felt powerless about.
That makes sense.
Yeah, by the way, this is one of the appeals of recognizing, calling yourself an incel. And I remember hearing about magazines for teenage girls giving out outright advice on how to perform certain sex acts. Yeah, they actually, or maybe they just said it, talk about it in this podcast. But yeah, when I was 16, I read about how to give perform oral sex both with men and women, and like I was extremely worried about penetrative sex, heterosexual sex. So I looked at how to do it, and it's been many years later when I could use this knowledge.
A lot of sense, and I've been thinking a lot about, for this episode, about sort of the difference between loneliness and solitude, which I think in part is a difference about choice. You're lonely because you have no choice.
Fireworks.
Solitude is about choosing your own company. But again, I think that might also be a way of like reclaiming power over something beyond a choice over. I think that that's an entirely plausible theory. I wanted to talk about
outside. Yeah, about that, by the way, my friend, she's the one I walked with today. She's actually from another city. She told to me that they're kind of getting bombed. Is there a holiday? No. People just want to do this for their own birthdays or whatever. Yeah, so they had some buildings bombed, a drone hit a building with people. Maybe not as fun of a joke as I would consider it before. But I think it doesn't happen in my region.
Yeah, for folks who have not had this show up on their algorithms, first of all, I would love to know what makes you immune to this. Like, does my phone just think I am very lonely? But basically, what loneliness influencers are like oftentimes women, which I find very striking, who are coming home and are like taking off their shoes and making pizza, hanging out with their cat, and there's text on the screen that says like, this is what your Friday night looks like when you are single and have no friends. And it's very much like selling the idea of a full life without anyone else in it, which I find really fascinating and like sort of inherently contradictory, because of course this is a person who is broadcasting their loneliness to the internet. And it's always very curious to me. It's like, how much can I really believe that these people actually agree with the concept of loneliness? How much of these people are trying to like change their circumstance? And I think that they're just like such a fascinating indicator of where we're at in modern life. That these are an emerging system of influencers.
I think the rise of loneliness influencers speaks to another trend about Gen Z and millennial dating. One thing that has become clear to millennials and Gen Z is, in a post-sexual revolution, feminist inflected, if not feminist, winning world, is that women...
Definitely not feminist winning. That's a great...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the White House would identify as particularly feminist.
No. But, a culture in which women are able to exist by themselves, where women have jobs, where women are going to college and graduate school at higher rates than men, where in a lot of major cities, women are earning more than their male counterparts. You don't have to get married or be in a relationship to make a life for yourself. And
okay, I'll pause on that. I will leave to take off my lenses and for a second. And I will let you say what you think. Let me return back to new messages. I'm not going to be gone for long. Hi, can you hear me? I'm sure you can. Okay, I had a similar experience coming home after work sans a cat. It's not a lifestyle I recommend. I enjoy living alone. I really do, with cat or without cat. I think I should log off for the night. How long was that? Anyway, if you're still here, good night. I don't know, I don't feel satisfied with being alone, but I do not feel like it's the end of the world like I used to. But my ideal life is definitely not coming home alone to my cat. It's my ironic fear not wanting to be alone, yet having lived alone for so long you get used to it. I don't think I got used to it. I loved it from the very beginning. I always wanted to live alone. Very much the same boat. I'm fine with single, but having a partner would be so fulfilling. Yeah, I find both options enjoyable. So we stopped at 13. Oh, I would just get it to our chat in watch party. I see you haven't really made many takes. I don't see many opinions happening. Both have their own quirks. I definitely enjoyed coming home alone. And just, if only I had more money. I enjoy things people might not. I've been going to cafes alone before even living alone, going to movies alone, like pretty much everything people do with someone I'm used to doing alone. And I recommend it to everyone to be okay with being alone. Of course, if you are forced and it's for so long, I see how it's difficult. But I do think if you struggle with being alone, it's not being with someone that's important to fix. The cafe alone experience is wonderful. Yeah, I once went to a cafe alone for my birthday, and they just, because I was alone, they brought me a piece of cake. So men not feeling ready and opting out indefinitely, and women surpassing men in income and not feeling encouraged to settle with a partner. I don't think this is like men not feeling ready was actually just about men. So, who is more of the roadblock here in your opinion? People are not roadblocks. Seems like monogamy overall is in decline. I don't think so, honestly. But perhaps potential gender status reversal is not permanently incompatible, just an initial obstacle society hasn't learned how to adapt. While I don't think any gender status reversal is happening, I do think that these are new circumstances that society has not thought about kind of at all. If you remember, when we spoke about this young, angry woman podcast, the rehab room, I think, made a point about, women surpassing men in one thing, in another, like education, earning money in some planes. And I kind of realized that. I also did some searching for papers, but I realized that when women surpass men in something, we treat it as a crisis. Why aren't men doing better? Why they are not making as much? Why men? They are supposed to be on top of the world, so if it's not happening, it feels wrong and feels like something that needs fixing. Meanwhile, no, maybe not. Maybe it's okay, and we shouldn't always strive to make sure men are at top of the world in absolutely every category. Like, that'd be nice. I think it might have to do with the level of perceived stability for a long-term monogamy feeling out of reach for both men and women in different ways. Keyword feels. Interesting point. I'm not sure what it means though. I can do cafes and movies solo, but coming home to an empty apartment and a cold bed on a bad day is hell. Have you tried a pet though? Do you like pets? Maybe plants? Like, it's worth putting your care and attention into something living. I think my concern is that my romantic experiences have been downright horrible, and I don't want to go through the rest of my life thinking, was that it? Yeah. Interesting. New year unlocked. Lock it back. Any last words? We are on our closing times. I tried to grow a terrarium once. I bought 2 ferns and named them Chad and Incel. Rami, you want to play out this scenario so much. They both died on me. Chad died before Incel did. We're gonna make it. Yeah. I mean, if we're gonna make it, it's only when we believe in it. And if we don't, we basically put the lead on it. If we don't believe we can, we make sure. It's like Schrodinger's cat. You don't know if the cat is alive, but if you open the box, you know it will be dead. The same is like thinking if you will succeed. If you believe in it, or at least hope, you don't know if you'll succeed. But if you come to the conclusion that you won't be successful, then that's it, the cat is dead. You won't be successful. exactly. Despite my concerns, I am hopeful. Yes. I think there's always something to hope for. There's always a way to find hope. We just need to find it. What is our way to hope? I think a lot of it has to do with being comfortable with who you are and kind of knowing at least somewhat of who you are. If you hate yourself so deeply, you will simply not allow another person to like you. Like, people say, no one can love you until you love yourself. That's not true. People can love you even if you don't love yourself. But if you hate yourself, you will make it hard for them because it goes against your understanding of self. You see what I mean? Yeah, the first step isn't self-love per se, but self-acceptance is. Yes, I agree. I totally agree. Okay, these were my closing words. Anything left for us to speak on? Did you enjoy? Are you gonna check in for tomorrow's stream? God, both our brains are so big. So true. We are the biggest spilled brain cells. I just kind of feel bad for my niece. She thinks, this is what I'm talking about, she thinks so highly of me, and I don't want to destroy her image of me. Yet I wish I could tell her that her uncle is in fact not cool and lovable. This is exactly what I'm talking to you. But you are cool and lovable to her. And good stream, and I will probably miss the rest of the video because I will be asleep. That's okay. Brain cell hope max. Yeah. So thank you, guys. I want to say that first of all, Rami, we need to work on that. You need to stop just shutting everything down when it doesn't affirm your beliefs. I really just, want you to understand and accept love, or even just liking some sort of affection, at least from your niece first, because she will love you as long as you don't push her away. And if you will think you're not good enough, you will push her away. You should try to let good things just be. Yes, no reason to try and pick them apart. Why is this good thing happening? What is wrong with that? This is not a good mindset. Okay. Hope fuel. Love you. I'm making hearts with my fingers and you cannot see it. Here's something. Thanks for coming. Ever since she got her autism diagnosis, she actually Loki feels kind of happy about I can accept a fate like that. We can talk about it later. We will talk about it later. Inevitably. Okay. Thank you, guys. Goodbye, good night, good day. No, wait. Good day, good night.